The Royal Blue Podcast from the Liverpool Echo.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Royal Blue Podcast. It's the Crystal Palace match reaction show. I am your host, Ian Croll, and joining me to talk all things Everton today, we have the Echo's Everton FC reporter, Chris Beesley. Chris, how are things? All good?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a huge relief, wasn't it, for everyone, that first Premier League win of the season. It was looking a bit dicey at half-time, but yeah, hopefully that sort of relieves all the pressure off. Still a lot of hard work to come ahead, but yeah, it was great to get that particular result. I'm just going to mention, actually, we've had a bit of correspondence this week at the Echo, and a letter addressed to Joe and myself, and it's from an Ian Kidd from Kirby. And to be fair, Ian's been getting creative for Goodison Park's final season, and he's actually written a song, Goodbye Goodison Park, which he says should be sung to the tune of Elton John's Goodbye Yellow Brick Road. I'm not going to go through the whole song for us there, but I appreciate Ian writing in with that. He says excuse his handwriting because he is registered blind, but he's done a really good job on this, and he's been very creative. And I just read out the first bit. I'm not going to sing. I'm not the karaoke king, Conor O'Neill, but yeah, he says, yeah. So he says, to the tune of Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, for 133 years, we've played all the games here, but now it's time to move on from a place we hold so dear. We've had really great players who played for the Blues, plenty of games we've won, and some we've managed to lose. So goodbye Goodison Park, where the street end roared with glee. We've had the greatest players in anyone's history, played on the turf at L4, wore the shirt with pride, brought home all the honours to the blue half of Merseyside. So thank you for that, Ian Kidd. I mean, some bit of creativity from the Blues. And yeah, we've got that first win to toast now. But yeah, big relief all round.
You were definitely nearly singing it there, Chris, when you said history. It was definitely nearly getting into that tune. I could see it.
Yeah. Well, as I said, buoyed by that result, no doubt. But yeah, thanks to Ian for writing that one in. There's plenty more where that came from.
Without a doubt, and I think more wins and more results like that, certainly at Goodison Park, will enable us towards the end of the season to be able to, celebrate Goodison Park and say goodbye, as fittingly as it should be. So, more to that, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Go on.
No, just to say, yeah. I mean, it's absolutely. We just want to appreciate. It's a historic moment. It's a huge moment, not just Everton's history and football history, and. It's been tough, hasn't it, for this first month? Some really sort of frustrating all around. Some of the performances have been decent, but yeah, not getting those results. So yeah, hopefully that's a big watershed moment for the club. We'd like to hope.
Yeah, without a doubt. And today's agenda, as mentioned, it is the Crystal Palace match reaction show. And for the first time in this Premier League season, we are reacting to an Everton win. So it's definitely a good week to be a Blue. And as you can see, me and Chris, Chris is in the Royal Blue studio, but unfortunately, I am not in the Royal Blue studio, so we are remote. I've got a few childcare issues which I'm having to, sort out. But we obviously could not bring the podcast today, because we won. We needed to bring the podcast here today. We've had plenty of reaction over the past couple of weeks where we've reacted to losses and disappointments. So it was really important that we got this podcast here today. And let's see what we've got. Plugs then. Give this video a like, give it a thumbs up, and please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. All your support is definitely greatly appreciated. And we're not live because we are remote, but please leave us a comment. And as usual, join the debate. I always give the comments a good read after the fact and after the podcast has been uploaded. So, Chris, let's get down to it then. It was a much needed win. Your post-match reaction video, you said the victory was, quote, absolutely crucial. Yeah. So, just how important was that win on Saturday, just to ease any pressure, really?
Yeah. Well, to be fair, they got into the game, and for once, it was a positive sort of scenario going into the fixture. Baby steps down at Leicester City there, picking up the first point of the season, which was, I thought, overall an encouraging display. And then the Freaking Group getting the deal announced of the proposed takeover on the Monday. So everything was set up there for a good performance. And of course, huge news, the big ovation for Jared Branthwaite coming back into the side. By far and away, Everton's breakthrough star of last season, and one of the most English football talents there are amongst the players emerging in recent times. So everything was set up for a good afternoon. But yeah, certainly that first half was very laboured. It was a poor goal, I thought, for Everton to concede. Soft in terms of the way that Doucoure was beaten for the initial header, and then for Mark Gay to sort of slip in from close range. So they showed a lot of character. To be fair, that is obviously the first time that they have come from behind to win a Premier League game under Sean Dyche. So we can't underestimate sort of the magnitude of that from a psychological point of view. But yeah, I mean, I don't know where they'd have gone if they did a loss. Certainly, if they'd have lost, I mean, everyone would have been frustrated enough if it had just been a point. But if they'd have actually lost that game, and to be fair, I mean, there's been a lot of talk. James Tarkowski's challenge at 1-0 in terms of a potential penalty shout for Palace. But if they had gone and lost that game, thankfully it's a moot point now. We don't have to discuss it. But yeah, I don't quite know where they would have gone. But they didn't. They showed that resolve, and then they came back. Same as last year, actually, as much as we don't want to sort of keep doing that. But sixth game of the season, wasn't it, that they got the first win. And to be fair, last season, now, it was boom and bust in terms of when those results came, that huge winless run. And then before that, they'd done really well in December. But yeah, it was same as last season. Game 6, first win on the board. And to be fair, last year, despite those off the field issues with the 2 points deductions, it would have actually finished level on points with Brighton, who were 11. So let's hope that they're off the mark now and onwards and upwards.
Just a little time out, Chris. Just a message to the audience. If there's any connectivity issues with regards to the YouTube video, and you can always listen to the podcast on Apple and Spotify, because I think your audio carried on there, but I think your video just paused, but I could still hear everything that you were saying. So just for everyone who's watching on YouTube, if there are any issues, then the audio will be enhanced and you can listen back to it on audio on Apple and Spotify. Okay. Obviously massive win, Chris. I guess we didn't get the performance. It was really poor in the first half, but as I've said all along, a win, currently in this current climate, a win over a performance any day of the week. But was it worrying for you that first half? Certainly, sitting there at half time, 1-0 down on the back of that performance, it seemed like same old, and we didn't know where we were going to go from there.
Yes, certainly at half time, I was very concerned. I didn't have much hope at all, unfortunately, given the way things have been in the past. It was so predictable, like you say, very sort of pedestrian in many ways, lacking in energy and ideas, which was a real shame given that the way they played overall at Leicester City, and even in parts in those two awful collapses against Villa and Bournemouth. There'd been a lot more positivity in the way that they'd sort of gone up those two opponents. So yeah, it was all looking pretty gloomy at come half time, wasn't it? And like I said already, a poor goal to concede, and then not really much in terms of a comeback. Plenty of endeavour, but nothing was really coming off. And obviously, we saw the only thing that did come off was Jesper Lindstrom in terms of getting the hook at half time. I thought he'd actually done really well at Leicester. He'd looked like there's an out ball to him who could cause the opponents a lot of problems. But yeah, he was kind of struggling. To be fair, it was the opposite of the trip to the King Power Stadium in terms of Jack Harrison coming on and really sort of making the difference in the second half, having a positive contribution. So yeah, that was one of the discerning points of what they did do. But yeah, that first half was very disappointing, and yeah, I was concerned going in at half time, thinking, just where do we go from here? So thankfully, there was that big response.
I mean, I guess we got the performance against Bournemouth and didn't get the win, but Saturday we didn't get the performance, but we got the win. So, like I say, a win over a performance in this current climate any day of the week. Another positive, Chris, then was obviously the return of Jared Branthwaite. Sean Dyche said he was in contention in his press conference on Thursday, and lo and behold, he did play. Yeah. Obviously, we did concede first, and we seem to still have those set piece issues. We conceded a needless goal, and Crystal Palace, nearly got in again. To be fair, with the exact same, corner kick routine, if you want to put it that way. So Branthwaite is back alongside Tarkowski. That's the main thing. But is it a case of Sean Dyche tweaking things in defence in terms of tactically when defending from set pieces, or is it a case of Jared Branthwaite now just finding full match fitness and getting rid of that match rust and working his way up and building that partnership again with Tarkowski, and everything should fit back into place?
Yeah, to be fair, I think Crystal Palace look like they'd certainly done their homework on a tactical point of view. They're almost like beating them at their own game in terms of the set pieces there in that first half, and the crosses coming in to the back post. It was a bit different in the second half. John Pickford came and claimed a few, but in that first half, whether he was under tactical instructions or whatever, staying on his line, and it seemed to cause all sorts of uncertainty. But in terms of Jared Branthwaite, I thought he really grew into the game. He had that, as I said already, that terrific ovation at the start. Everyone was delighted to see him back in there, just being in there, and the physical presence. It made a difference. But yeah, I think he came on leaps and bounds. Looked, like he was shaking off the rust towards at the start. There were a couple of little moments there, but we overcame all of that. And come the second half, he's back to that sort of man mountain that got him so highly rated in recent months, because it's not just, we all know he's a big lad, he's a big unit, he's a physical presence, but it's how he reads his game. That's what makes him potentially a world-class performer and a generational talent, is he combines that physicality that he's got naturally with the intelligence of the way he defends against the opponents he's facing. Obviously, Mateta, he's up against another big unit there in terms of what he was bringing to the Palace attack. But yeah, I thought he really came on leaps and bounds that second half, and so he's got that understanding with Vitaly Mykolenko at left back, who was alongside him. I thought that Mykolenko again was just feeling his way back in and maybe a bit loose in his positioning at times, but he sort of came on second half as well and upped his game. So yeah, in terms of whether they need to tweak it or not, I think hopefully Branthwaite will actually improve those defenders around him, because as we know, only Arsenal kept more clean sheets than Everton last season, and that was a real strong point for them, and that just hasn't been there this year. Again, failed to keep a clean sheet on this occasion, but with Branthwaite back in the side, hopefully he can bring the best out of us, because there's just that sort of assurance that things will hopefully be all right with. If it goes into Jared's area of the pitch, he'll deal with most things that will come his way, and the rest of the defence can sort of feed off that, hopefully.
I mean, a big thing over the weekend has kind of been made about the reaction at half-time, specifically the rallying cry from Captain Seamus Coleman. What do you know about it, and what did you make of it, really? Because whatever he said, it seemed to work.
Sorry about that, you just dropped out there. I didn't get that question.
No problem, Chris. So, yeah, I was just saying that a big thing has kind of been made about the rallying cry from Seamus Coleman at half-time. What do you know about it, if anything, and what did you make of it? Because obviously what he said, seems to work.
Yeah, it's obviously what we've heard from the players, isn't it? Is it Dwight McNeil and Ashley Young, I think, have referenced it. I couldn't tell you what words were used from Seamus, but yeah, it just shows you what a huge presence he is in the dressing room, whether he's on the pitch or not. Unfortunately, these days, he seems to be out there fewer and fewer occasions. We don't see too much of Seamus. He retains the club captaincy as the senior player within the squad in terms of longevity at Everton and all that he sort of brings with that as a personality. And yeah, he's still making his presence felt, whether he's out there or not. It obviously did the trick, didn't it? Because it was the game was won in those that first 10 minutes of the second half. I mean, Sean Dyche said in his press conference that not a lot was changed, but yeah, those within the group, within the squad, have quite rightly referenced Seamus playing it is part again, and it can't be underestimated. Frank Lampard, think of all the winners that he's been with in football and all those world-class performers with Chelsea and England that he'll have experienced over the years, even at Manchester City towards the end of his own playing career. But so for Frank Lampard to come out and say that Seamus Coleman is the best man he's ever met, in terms of a human being and what he actually brings. I mean, that's a pretty high accolade. Whatever you think of Lampard, the manager, he's seen it all in football as a winner, certainly as a player. So yeah, you can't underestimate just how important Seamus is to the group. So it'll be interesting to see, obviously, when he does hang up his boots, whether there's a role for him off the pitch at Everton. I'm sure there will be, if he wants one.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, rallying cry, fantastic stuff from Coleman. But for me, I think it was the goal above anything else that changed the game. I don't know whether you agree. I mean, Dwight McNeil with an absolute left foot stunner from outside the box, which incidentally came from him playing as a number 10 in that position. So I've had a few words with Joe over the weekend, and I've told him I am going to stay humble. I don't know when Joe's next going to be on a podcast, to be honest, because I was looking at the roster and I think, is he in next Friday? So I might be able to gloat a little bit on Friday about me calling for Dwight to play in that number 10 position. But yeah, I mean, like I say, the goal obviously changed the game. What I think was the biggest thing, other than the actual goal, was how early it came in the second half. Right after the whistle goes for that the referee blows for the second half, and we're literally back in the game. Maybe it was a bit of a, Palace weren't expecting it. Fantastic goal. But from then on in, I just felt like we looked a little bit of a different proposition going forward, a lot more confident. So what did you make of that? I mean, we definitely got the crowd back on side with regards to that goal. And, I felt even the 2-1 with a couple of minutes to go, and there's the fact that we were sitting back, there should have been really only one winner in that game, based on the second half performance, and obviously it was us. Yeah,
that is what you say about you and Joe. Joe wasn't having it, was he? It makes you wonder, doesn't it? He's the supposed expert in inverted commas there, and you were pushing for that last season. I mean, I kind of sat on the fence and said, well, we could drift inside and from that left wing position and move central. But yeah, you called that, and it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because okay, the balance hasn't been right in terms of the team until certainly this weekend in terms of getting results. But, McNeil, when, he said himself, he said to me at Villa, he was really, as you can imagine, downbeat that day after they'd thrown away another 2-0 lead to lose 3-2. But, he'd got off the mark there and scoring the first goal, and he feels he really can contribute a lot more in that role in terms of goals and assists and threading through passes to people. But yeah, it was a pivotal moment, wasn't it, in terms of goals change games and the whole sort of feeling, especially at Goodison. I mean, it's something we mentioned, wasn't it, in when we were up with David Moyes doing his interview for Goodison Park, My Home. I mean, to be fair, David was very dignified and didn't want to speak at all about current managers or any of his Everton successors. But I pointed out to him, that season that Everton finished fourth, there were so many times when Everton did come from behind, especially at Goodison, to win games. And it's a real strong weapon in Everton's armoury to use that power of Goodison Park. Hopefully they can take that onto the new stadium, where it's another intimate venue, but in a modern setting, and the steep stands. And really make the most of that home crowd. I mean, there'll be even more of them come the move down to Bramley Moor Dock. But I think people saying as soon as McNeil got it, to shoot, they know they've got it in his locker, the old paintbrush, and whether he's coming in from the left or whether he's, in that central role, certainly, the way he could take it on from coming in actually on that right-hand side, curl into the top corner. Is anyone in that Everton side capable of doing that? It's Dwight McNeil, and to be fair, I suppose we'll come on to this in a different way. His second really shows you, the other sort of side of his skill set in terms of just taking the cross from Jack Harrison and actually taking a couple of touches and then finishing it. That was really assured, but totally different sort of finish. So yeah, Dwight McNeil comes up trumps, and dare I say, Ian Croll comes up trumps with that one as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, it's no like major inspirational tactical analysis. I've just always felt that Dwight is not, in the sense of a modern day winger. He's not a modern day winger. He's got no pace, and he can put crosses in, which we usually would get on the head of Dominic Calvert-Lewin. But I would look at it as where can Dwight be most effective, and quite clearly in this current setup, it looks like with Ndiaye now playing on the left, because I think we all thought Ndiaye would play number 10.
Yeah.
With Ndiaye now on the left, looking dangerous, by the way, and looking effective. That McNeil fits at slots like nicely into that number 10 role. And let's face it, if he gets a yard of space in front of him, 25, 30 yards away from goal, he's having a shot. And with a left foot wand, like Dwight McNeil has got, there's every chance that it's going to go in the back of the net, every single time. So very pleased with the brace for Dwight, and I think he can only get better, in my opinion. We'll see where it goes. I mean, one player that did struggle, as you've already mentioned, Chris, was Jesper Lindstrom. Hooked at half time. I think, did you give him a player rating of 5? I give him a player rating of 4.
Okay.
Let's face it, he had a difficult afternoon. But Sean Dyche made the sub. I think he's been criticised, hasn't he, Sean Dyche, over the past couple of weeks regarding his non-substitutions or, his wrong substitutions, whatever way you want to look at it. But I think it was clear for all to see there that Jesper was getting frustrated and certainly was struggling. So Dyche made that substitution, bringing Harrison on, and he had an immediate effect, didn't he, on the right-hand side, and he ends up putting the cross in for Dwight McNeil's second goal.
Yeah, like you say, being proactive for substitutions is something, obviously, Sean Dyche will receive a lot of questioning on. He's not sort of overly keen on making those subs, certainly early, in terms of just straight swap at half time. That's what he did there. Yeah, Lindstrom looks like a really exciting player in there. There's clearly a big talent, but he's still finding his feet in the Premier League. It's very different to Serie A in terms of it. Although he is, a physically quick player, pace is one of his attributes. I think the pace of the game is still something that Lindstrom is still getting to grips with. We've seen it in fits and starts. He really should have bagged the brace against Southampton in the Carabao Cup. That's been and gone. Another couple of chances for him down at Leicester. Difficult conditions there. But again, it was actually a very encouraging display, I thought, at Leicester for him. And that's sort of when Everton lost their way at the King Power Stadium when Lindstrom went off. But this time, I think there was one incident towards right at the end of the first half. I think, did he lose it? And he's almost like he gave up or he was frustrated. And I just thought, needs to improve in that respect. But yeah, he's clearly a very gifted player. Hopefully he can come good for Everton over the course of the season, but very much a work in progress. Jack Harrison, I suppose a lot more what you're getting. He's sort of been used to this system for a year now. I think that Jack Harrison, to be fair, his natural instinct will be to be more like Lindstrom in terms of being a flair player and stuff, but he's learned to sort of work well within this Dyche system and what's required of him as a wide player. I suppose, especially if Iliam Ndiaye is up to all his tricks on the other side. But to be fair, I thought Ndiaye actually putting a real shift out of possession in terms of also helping Everton in defensive situations and picking the ball up and alleviating pressure. But yeah, Jack Harrison, like you say, providing the cross for McNeil for the second goal, instant impact more or less for him. And it was a much brighter afternoon for Jack, and he's, to be fair, he's had his critics in recent times, and it was a lot more positive for him. Really making a difference in what was a pivotal comeback win for Everton.
I mean, we'll come on to this later in the week, but do you think now then against Newcastle that Harrison will probably go straight in there ahead of Lindstrom?
At this stage, you'd probably think so, and he's given Lindstrom 3 starts in a row now, and sort of mixed bag of results. Harrison's the more sort of proven option. So, given that Dyche puts a lot of stock in what he thinks he can sort of get from players in terms of trust in them, maybe an early shout for that one would be for Jack to return. But it's just good that they've actually got genuine competition for places in these kind of areas now. We saw it in midfield. Idrissa Gueye back from compassionate leave and James Garner, who'd been operating at right back, they were both on the bench, came on. There is actually a few genuine options there, different people, competition for places across the park. And it just shows that for all this difficult start, and it's been bitterly disappointing and worse than anyone would have expected, that there is actually optimism that, okay, we don't think it's going to be a vintage season, but Everton could do all right this season, probably should do all right. They should, in all things being equal, with Branthwaite back fit, they've retained Dominic Calvert-Lewin's services. We've said this before, but I think it needs reiterating. 8 new faces through the door. They're in a stronger position than last season. So if they could finish level on points with 11th place Brighton for all that went on in terms of on-field performance, if it hadn't been for the 2 points deductions, given the improvements they have made this summer, the hope must be that they should actually be all right this season, and Evertonians could enjoy that final season at Goodison Park.
Okay, back to the game then. When we went 2-1 up, I felt like, although the performance levels did improve, I felt like once we went 2-1 up, there was periods in the game where we did sit back. Now, I don't know whether you agree with that, but I know people will counter that by saying, well, you're 2-1 up, you're looking to sit back, counter, and then, break on the counter attack.
Yeah.
But I just felt that doing that with the way we play, the lack of possession that we have and the quality that we have in the ball, we just always hand the impetus back to the opposition. Now, I know, 2-1 up with like 5 minutes to go, my anxiety levels were just, through the roof, considering obviously what happened to Bournemouth. We got over the line, the players, the manager delivered. I just think that this kind of moves on to my point about the midfield, or the point that you brought up about the midfield, central midfield anyway. What have we got to do to be able to, increase possession for one, and, get players on the ball, to whether that's to add quality in an attacking sense, or just to alleviate pressure from the defence, say when we are winning in like a 2-1 situation, like on Saturday, because like you said there, we have options now in that, in that area of the pitch. Doucoure, Irabuman, Mangala, James Garner are just a guy, like there's loads there. So for me, I felt Mangala had a really, really good game. In fact, I gave him an 8, to be honest. I think maybe people thought that was quite high, but I just think if you look back at his, this was even before I saw his stats, but looking back at his stats, I think he was one of the top midfield performers of the game. So for me, it's kind of, it's him now, Mangala in there, but who partners Mangala? Would you agree with that, or,
Well, yes, since he came into the side, the balance seems a lot better, and it seems strange, isn't it? Because Timo Robertson was quite rightly getting rave reviews early in the season. He'd come in from Aston Villa. People weren't expecting much of him. Very limited player in Premier League experience. People say, PSR workaround, all that kind of thing. And had sort of done well in pre-season and had taken that into the start of the season. And quite rightly, it caught the eye, and people saying, he's done more really than Amadou Onana did, sort of, in terms of fitting into the system. But somebody like Orel Mangala, he just brings that sort of balance, doesn't it? It just, everything's while Robin was catching the eye with his forward runs and stuff like that, very progressive, and there's a lot of things we can sort of look forward to in terms of him as a talent. Mangala's the established player, isn't he? He's like Onana, he's a Belgium international. He's played in this league before for Nottingham Forest. He's at the peak of his powers. So I don't know, hopefully over the course of a season, you can, I won't say chop and change, but you can rotate and you can sort of find the right balance and the right blend for those individual battles. Because I suppose one of the things that we've seen from Everton, certainly under Sean Dyche, is you kind of know what you're going to get. And that means we know, and then the opponents know. So having that ability to call upon those different midfielders with their different attributes and strengths and weaknesses will hopefully allow Everton to become less predictable. So I don't think it's a case of saying, well, it's Mangala and one other. Or I don't know. It will change on a week-to-week, month-to-month basis, depending on who the opponents are, who they play. And so look, we don't have an Everton who are predictable, and we know it's only going to go one way. I mean, Doucoure could end up going back further forward again, or could retain that deep role that he's been playing the last couple of games. So Yeah, I don't think it's a case of just saying this is how it's going to be. I mean, that's nice to have, I suppose, in the centre back areas to have that understanding with Branthwaite and Tarkowski being, the established partnership and having them back. But further forward in the pitch, if they can mix it up a bit more in the engine room, see how things go. But yeah, I think I've been very impressed with the way Mangal's sort of quietly gone about his business in these last few games that he's come in. He's just kept things ticking over nicely in that area. Because to be fair to Idrissa Gueye, obviously he's at an advanced stage of his career now, and as brilliant as he's been over like 2 different spells for Everton, you don't know what you're going to get with Idrissa Gueye in terms of what he brings to the table. Just having those different options and those different ways of playing can hopefully mix things up.
One player that did kind of break through on the counter but fluffed his lines was Doucoure. It was a shame there because I did feel like that was a really good counter. How do you think he played?
Yeah, it was one of those. I thought he was probably a little bit better at Leicester. He was a bit up and down, especially first half. Wasn't quite at the levels I would have hoped for. Yeah, it's a big chance. That's the thing with Doucoure, he's, as Dyche says, Johnny on the spot. He's a great finisher when the ball sort of comes to him. If he's only maybe got a second or two to pick his spot, but it's one of those. We've seen it with Dom as well, one-on-one, when he's perhaps had a little bit too much time to think about it. Lets the defender come in, doesn't he, and nick the ball off him. Yeah, I don't know with Doucoure. I just wonder whether he will continue more in that deeper role when he is called upon. Interested to see how things go. I don't think he's quite at those levels that we saw ahead of those 2 hamstring injuries that he suffered in either leg last season. I know obviously he was back on the score sheet against Southampton, and then he'd also got one in the last home game of last season against Sheffield United. But does he turn 32 on New Year's Day, something like that? Again, he's obviously not as old as Idrissa Gueye, but I just wonder with those injuries, and he is advancing now in years, whether he can continue in that deeper role. But yeah, perhaps he had a little bit too much time to sort of take that chance on and think about it, as silly as that might seem. And Saturday's maybe better at those more instinctive finishes. But yeah, it was a big chance, and yeah, very interesting. He is one of those ones, to be fair to him, who can play at 2 different roles in midfield. I suppose, like I said, with Idrissa Gueye, you're going to get maybe one thing with Mangala as well as they do it. Doucoure is a couple of different options within the one player. So another one over the course of the season, you see him operating in slightly different ways.
I mean, what did you make of this, Chris? I mean, I don't know if you watched Match of the Day, but shouts for the penalty for Crystal Palace. I don't know if you remember the incident, but yeah. I think Tarkowski clearly wins the ball, to be honest. What did you make of it?
I didn't watch Match of the Day, and I know a lot of Blues probably were for maybe the first time this season after the result. I know they've been talking about it on the podcast because I've done a piece on that today. The conversation has continued with Gary Lineker and Alan Shearer. Now Shearer was convinced it was a penalty. Say, well, maybe he would say that one, the old centre forward, but no. I think Michael Ball was talking to me about it before as well, doing his column. It wasn't necessarily a challenge he had to make, so maybe a bit reckless in that respect. And people in the press box at times saying, "Oh, Tarkowski knows exactly what he's doing there." With that one, I certainly don't think it was a stonewall or anything like that. Like you said, he did the ball. It's just the way he sort of got his body in there to block him off. But it was the coming together of 2 big units, wasn't it? And I've probably used that phrase, big unit, a few times today. But yeah, no, I suppose what I would say is, to be fair to Everton, they've had plenty go against them in recent times. So it's about time something went Everton's way, and they've obviously got VAR to review it as well. And they felt it didn't deserve any more. So yeah, we play to the whistle, and just a good strong challenge from the skipper there.
Okay, well, we'll finish off now, Chris. It's only a short one. I don't know how busy you are, but I guess a win is a win. Doesn't really matter. Excuse me. It doesn't really matter how it is achieved. So does this 3 points take the pressure off Sean Dyche for the time being, for at least from the fans' perspective anyway.
Yeah, I really don't. As much as I have defended Sean Dyche and in his periods of weaknesses or his low spots, as it were, I've seen famously after the Chelsea 6-0 when I said, changing the manager again is not the answer. I really don't know where we'd have been. Thankfully, we don't have to be in that position. But had Everton lost, I don't think they'd have necessarily pulled the trigger, because, to be fair, the club have always been adamant that they're backing him in that respect. But I think he'd have been in a tough corner, a tough place if they had lost that game. Thankfully, they didn't, and it could be a really sort of pivotal result for Sean Dyche and for the team in terms of. I think we can't underestimate just the fact that they've got that monkey off the back. They've got that first win of the season. That's a real sort of big relief for everyone, because, like you said, they played better and lost, but they got over the line. They got the result. But also the fact that they came from behind. That was one of the big things. As much as at times, certainly last season, they were good at defending 1-0 leads, and they could do that. To actually come from behind, I've said already about the number of times they did it under that season. They finished 4th on the Moyes, but to do that shows that they have got some mental resilience, certainly after blowing those 2-0 leads in recent times. So that's another big thing. Obviously, you got to use it as a platform to build on better results. You can't just rest on the laurels now. There's another home game before the international break, Newcastle United. So there's another opportunity there. I think what also happens, like, again, building on that feel-good factor from the Friedkin group and the proposed takeover, which surely should happen now. As much as, you don't want to jinx it or say these statements, it's totally different than 777 in terms of where the Friedkin group are. And, they've got the money. They're well respected, as much as they've had ups and downs and a bit of a turbulent time at Roma in recent weeks. They know what they're doing. There shouldn't actually be a problem in terms of they're getting the green light now. So with all of that, I think what it does do is that you'd hope, you never want to second guess what Farhad Moshiri might do. But now that he's agreed that deal, just leave that now, and then the Friedkin group can make their decisions in the future. Once they hopefully get control of the club, that's their call then. But I certainly think in the short term, you would hope with Sean Dyche, it's almost like, well, we're waiting for that takeover to be complete now and carry on. Because I said, as much as we didn't want to have this sticky start to the season, it's actually following a similar pattern to last year in terms of Game 6. They finally get that win, and they're getting the players back in now, and hopefully they can kick on. We know there's going to be ups and downs, and there's probably going to be moments where that pressure sort of gets cranked up again. But yeah, I think it's absolutely crucial victory for the manager, and hopefully just hopefully everyone can just sort of breathe out a bit now and sort of take things on. Like I said, we know it's not necessarily going to be a vintage season, but I honestly believe there's enough talent in this squad and there's enough know-how in the manager, whatever you think about him, to just get this season with no more dramas. Hopefully, just see Goodison now, without any sort of crazy stuff happening, and look forward to whatever Dan Friedkin wants to bring to the table next summer. But yeah, I think it was a really sort of crucial victory for everyone, and hopefully just the Evertonians can enjoy it and just actually look forward to a week where things are looking a bit rosier in the garden, and actually looking forward to more positive times ahead after all the doom and gloom that's sort of been surrounding the club in recent times.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I mentioned this in a podcast with Tony Scott last week before the Palace game, obviously, and hopefully it rings true even more now that we've managed to get our first win, is that once the Friedkin group do come in, that, it's better that they don't have to be forced to make a decision with regards to Sean Dyche's future. If Sean Dyche can pick results up for Everton and keep us up, we know his contract is up at the end of this year, along with Kevin Thelwell. If he and Thelwell, can keep us up this season, then it's up to the Friedkin group now in the summer to make a plan. And we don't know what that plan is going to be, but no. I think sacking a manager and rocking the boat, unless it's really needed, in drastic circumstances, is just not the ideal way to go. So we will see. I mean, Newcastle next, Chris, big game. We've got lots of preview content on that coming up over the next couple of days. It's a 5:30 kickoff, so it will be Goodison Park under the lights. And obviously, we did beat Newcastle last season 3-0 at Goodison Park, so they have a good start to the season. So we'll bring lots of preview content on that. What's on the agenda for the rest of the day for you?
Just dealing with Michael Ball's columns, the main one. I've spoken to Michael, and they're just taking care of that one. So obviously you look out. Obviously, even after a win, there's always strong opinions from Michael, as we come to expect. With the way he watches the games as a former Everton player, proven Premier League performer. He's always got something good to say. So I'd be looking after that one. And then, like I said, we've had the piece up. So it's been written anyway. I don't know if it's gone up while we've been speaking here. Interesting thoughts from Gary Lineker, Alan Shearer, and Mika Richards, and what they thought of Everton's first win of the season. So plenty there to keep me busy.
Good stuff. Well, I think we'll finish it there, unless you've got any other final remarks.
No, I'm not gonna read all the rest of goodbye to Goodison Park, but I don't know. I think we might have to get once Conor O'Neill's had a few Guinnesses down him or something like that, and maybe he could belt that one out maybe later in the season.
I guess what we could do with that actually is it. Have you printed it off?
It's handwritten from Ian.
We could maybe take a picture of the piece of paper and just post it on our social channels on the YouTube channel. That might be an idea. People can have a look at the full poem or song, whatever it's being labelled as. And maybe one day we will get to see you sing it, Chris. Maybe the last game of the season, or second to last game of the season.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, well, we'll leave it there then. Please remember to hit the like and thumbs up button and subscribe to the Royal Blue YouTube channel. And as always, leave us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. Follow us on Facebook, which is Everton FC Liverpool Echo. And that is all for today. Good that we can finally react and talk about an Everton win after Crystal Palace. And as mentioned, Newcastle preview content will be coming up over the next couple of days. I've been Ian Croll, joined by the Echo's Everton FC reporter, Chris Beesley, and this has been the Royal Blue Podcast.
You've been listening to the Royal Blue Podcast from the Liverpool Echo.